Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you are here. Get ready for this. This interview is with the one and only Matt Young. Now, he is a professional football player from England who had a remarkable professional career for over 8 years playing. And then he had to co-create a new future. He talks about change, about identity, how you go from being something for decades and all of a sudden being in a place around reinvention. He is now a high performance coach. He works with people all around the world, imagining what is possible. Also happens to be an ultramarathoner and a new to be father, and also somebody who is still cheering for England to have their shot in the World Cup. So I hope you enjoy this episode with the one and only professional football player and amazing performance coach, Matt Young. Stay tuned. So Matt, welcome to the podcast. We're excited to have you here today.
I'm very pleased to be here. So thank you very much for having me on.
Okay, so Matt Young, you're a big deal. You have spent a lot of time both in professional sport and beyond in the work that you're doing as a high performance coach. And I am just so curious about what are you doing these days? What's top of mind for you? And what are the big thoughts that Matt Young is navigating right now?
A big deal. I mean, that's been a while since I've heard anything like that. No, I suppose what I'm looking to do is to help create positive, lasting change in people's lives.
Yes.
What I'm feel very passionate about is where people get stuck, limiting emotions, masking of identities. Yes. Essentially where I was for many years of my life. That is my main focus and has been now for a number of years. Naturally, as you mentioned there, I was a professional football player for many, many years, and I can resonate with people who are in high-performing environments and high-performing workspaces because I've lived that life. Yes. And it was a place where I used to mask over certain identities. I used to deal with quite deep, limiting emotions that would stop me: anxiety, fear, worry, doubt, depressive thoughts, OCD tendencies, these types of things. And that's essentially my mission now, where I try to, quote unquote, be a big deal to try and help people in that particular space.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for just that share and that insight. So if it's okay with you, I would love to hear about, if you're open to it, some of those years as the professional football player, and also just how significant it is when we essentially deconstruct an identity and we start imagining what's possible in what we call our second summit, or our life after some of these major identity pieces. So tell us what it was like growing up as a footballer and what that experience was like for you.
I mean, it was, especially where I'm from in the UK, it's the cliche, it was every kid's dream.
Of course.
From the age of 4, 5 years old, when I first asked my dad that I wanted him to take me over to the park to kick a football, to when I was 18 and got my first professional football contract, to then making my professional debut and everything that come with that. It was incredible. It was everything that I could have ever have wished for myself. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it was the very thing that opened up the doors to my insecurities, my deepest demons, if I can call them that, my worries, my fears, my doubts towards myself. And what I become very efficient at doing was being Matt Young the footballer. Yes. I knew how to be Matt Young the footballer. I knew how to, we use the word identity, be the identity of Matt Young the footballer. I wasn't quite so sure on who Matt Young the human being was.
Fair.
And so that's how I lived 24/7, 365 days a week as Matt Young, 265 days a year, I should say, as Matt Young the footballer, because that's who I had been conditioning. That's who I had been enhancing since the age of 5. That's who I knew how to be. When that stopped quite suddenly, I was at a void and a crossroads in my life now to then try to make sense of who Matt Young, the human being, was, because he hadn't been seen, quote unquote, since the age of 4.
Exactly.
And this was really where I had to then go down the path of, as we said, the deconstructing certain parts, and it led me down if I can be open, a very dark place for a number of years, but one that thankfully I'm through, and now I help people on the other side of. So that's the sort of journey of where I've been.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Again, thank you for your, the vulnerability in sharing that experience. And, I think so often when we see high performers like yourself in professional support, that, as you said, like, you're living the dream of essentially like a country, right? Like, this is what kids all around the world imagine. One day I'll be able to be part of an organization, be part of a club, represent my country. Like, my name is on the back. I'm playing for a name on the front. Like, there are so many things about professional sport that are so enticing, of just, you must be the happiest, luckiest guy in the whole wide world who's put in so many reps to be able to be here. And then sometimes I think there's a wee bit of a disconnect where, when we hear from, professional athletes and they say, being Matt Young, the footballer, was hard. And people, I sometimes kind of wonder how we kind of reconcile that, oh yeah, it's hard, but like, that's a pretty fun hard to have. And I think sometimes people get a bit of a misapprehension about the fact that there's still a person in there who is open to that feedback, to that criticism, to, your mistakes are on massive billboards, in the sense of, what happens in sport, and the fact that you are there to do something you love, but also it's a business and there's all these competing pressures. And again, I just want to hold space and really presence that I've talked to so many professional athletes and even Olympians, and they say, like, yes, I was living my dream. And in parallel, it was a very hard season at times. There were bright spots for sure, but there was also a shadow culture within professional sport that before they got into it, they didn't know about, or perhaps they didn't think that it would impact them the way that they had been impacted by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you summed that up very, very nicely. I think, I'm always look to be quite delicate with my language, because you said the word there. Everyone's perception of hard is quite different,
Yes.
The guy or gal who sit on the couch who have never attempted to run, they find 1 kilometer hard. Yes. But then someone who's stretching to 5K finds that hard. 10K, half marathon, ultra marathons. Yeah. And so the definition of hard, I think, is personal to us all, naturally. Mm-hmm. And I think the side of that where, like you say, your mistakes are blown up into sort of massive billboards, or they're blown up and scrutinized or criticized, or very, very detailed in that sense, is very true. And it's a type of hard where I think the majority of the population wouldn't quite be able to resonate with, for the simple reason that it's on such a mass scale. Mm-hmm. And my career was okay, and there's people who are way beyond my level of career of what I achieved in professional football, who then have that hard, quote unquote, in a much deeper way.
Yes.
I think there's that side of it that also comes into it. And I think that type of things was the real catalyst for me of identifying that what was hard for me was that scrutiny in that sense of what you put, because it highlighted for me deeper insecurities that ran through me. And that was the key part that I always tried to mask over by working harder, by having a better attitude, by doing better, by achieving more. And that was my way of trying to learn how to deal with that, when really, as I said to you, Matt Young, the human being, probably had some work he needed to work on away from football that allowed him to then flourish in that area even more.
Yeah, it's so well said. And thank you for, again, just really kind of putting language to what that experience is like. And, I recall working with a professional basketball player, and he made a comment, and I heard what you said in terms of like my career ended quite suddenly. And he had an experience where his career ended quite suddenly. And he shared with me, I remember this, massive human, like this baller was a big dude. And he said, basketball was finished with me, but I wasn't finished with basketball yet. And I had no idea who I was without it, because when people would literally see me on the street, strangers would literally be, how tall are you? You must play basketball. Like you must, like they literally just like, he literally carried this massive body. And he said, you know, he couldn't even watch a basketball game for years afterwards, like couldn't even touch a basketball. He couldn't be around it, didn't want to hear about it, because he went through this grieving season of saying goodbye to that identity that was who he was, again, from a very young age. And then all of a sudden, I remember, you know, he said that he was able to get to a place where he kind of came to terms. And it wasn't that it was all okay, Matt, but he was able to accept this was a very big season and a big part of my identity. And he said, then I realized I was at this place where I could co-create a future. And there were things about my past I wanted to bring into it. There were things from my past I didn't want to bring into my future. And he was able to then find his new identity as somebody who took on a completely different profession. And I just wonder how often there's this pressure that we have to hurry up and kind of get over our identity to do something next. And sometimes I feel like there's a propensity to rush that. And again, I'm just really admire how, yeah, you mentioned there were some bumpy patches, and I don't want to dismiss that, but you gave yourself the time to figure it out. And now you are now serving essentially the person you once were, that person who needed that support to reimagine what's possible in their life, which I just think is so extraordinary.
Thank you. And, you know, that story is one I can resonate with completely. I mean, I think, you know, if we went on a wider expansion of that, it's not just a profession. It's essentially you're in a relationship with something for the best part of 20, 30, for some people, 40 years of their lives. And for then that to end suddenly, if we was to take that in a physical relationship, people would, you know, one day I'm in this relationship, the next day I'm not. And in my case, that was sort of how it went. It was like, I can't make head nor tail. I've been with this quote unquote person for the last, you know, 21 years, 22 years of my life. And all of a sudden it ends. That's the sort of side of it that you're not prepared for. You know, like what you said, that it takes a while for you to reaccustom, readjust, reattach to that. And that's why, you know, without going too much into this, a lot of high performing people in sport, in business, whatever it may be, they turn to other vices.
Yes.
Drink, drugs, sex, whatever it may be, because your world almost gets turned upside down from an identity perspective. Right. And it's a case of, what can I do to get myself out of this emotional state of what I'm feeling? Because I don't know which way is up currently. Yeah. And we do something to alter our psychological way of being to try and get ourselves out of that place. And so, yeah, it's something I can definitely resonate with. But the next part of that, which you said, which is I've been able to give myself that time, that space, to my language, to pivot, but then also not replace so much, but find new avenues, new vehicles that light me up, that make me feel excited, etc. That's the most important thing, because whether it's a new relationship, physical relationship, or new career, if we don't have something that excites us to move towards, like, we haven't got no light in our life, we haven't got no drive, no motivation, no compelling part of us that wants to do more. And for me, that was always the biggest part, because I was a football player and a football player only. And if football player ended, life was just black. Yeah. And it was for a while. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden there's a light at the end of that when you start to reposition what you see and what you want and what football gave me, and how can I look at what football gave me emotionally and then put that in this vehicle over here. And once I start to realize that this vehicle over here can give me the very things that football gave me, it's an easier transition.
100%. Beautifully said. I love that. Okay. So now we're essentially coming out on the other side. You know, you did your first summit, you climbed your mountain, you had this, you know, a remarkable career. Then we come down into that valley. It was hard. It was dark at days. And again, we find different ways of coping. And as a behaviorist, I always share, every behavior serves a purpose, right? Even the behavior that seems to be, harming us, getting us farther away from our goals, every behavior serves a purpose. People are just finding a way to cope with those big feelings and that grief. And now all of a sudden you're looking at this next summit and you're like, okay, I'm going to take some of those lessons. I'm going to move on to this next summit. So where does that happen in the sense of recognizing, yes, I have skills and I have gifts and I have talent. And now I'm going to find a way to do something over here. You said you're going to, you bring that passion, you bring that excitement, you get, feeling alive with doing this. And then where do you go? How do you start? What are some of those first steps when somebody is, again, reimagining what's possible? Where do you even begin to start that next summit?
I think for me, I would take the path of what I wouldn't recommend.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. Which is essentially not do anything and just find pain, more pain in not doing anything about anything, and to a point where, you're almost quote unquote self-imploding and life has no meaning anymore. That's the recommended dose of what not to do.
Not to do. Got it.
That side of things, I don't think serves anyone. And like you said, and I 100% concur with you, every behavior serves a purpose. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I had such a lack of, or I felt like anyway, such a lack of connection and such a lack of depth to who I was, that by not doing anything, I put myself in a deep, dark hole that I connected with myself there.
Yes.
And in hindsight, I see it now, and I see it with people that I work with, that it's such a dark, backwards way of looking to get our needs met that it serves no purpose. That would be the absolute way of what not to do.
Not to do. Got it.
For me, it was a case of stripping back what football gave me. Now, what I mean by what football gave me, what did it emotionally bring me in my life? Where it gave me a huge sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. It gave me a sense of discipline. I love disciplined approach of what it was. It gave me a sense of connection, camaraderie, and togetherness as such. And it gave me a sense of meaning, I suppose, that this is what my life, a deeper meaning, not just for me, but what it could have done for my family and so forth like that. Or when I play well, what it does to these supporters and the fans who are watching. It gave me a sense of meaning. And so when I looked at these four things, I was like, right, certain areas of life, they don't light me up. So I need to find something that lights me up, that makes me feel excited. But more importantly, what can I do in those areas? What can I do in the areas of the things that I love? So psychology, physical fitness, bringing people together, these areas that I love. What can I do to feel these four things in the same way? So, joining a park run, as amazing as it is for people, and I'm not knocking it, but joining a park run for a 5K isn't quite going to give me the discipline, meaning, deep sense of connection and purpose in my life in that way. So you know what? For me, I read a book, and I didn't plan on this. A friend gave me a book. I opened up a book. All of a sudden, I heard about these things called ultramarathons. What the hell's an ultramarathon? Never heard of an ultramarathon before. But all of a sudden, it hooked me. I saw an avenue to exercise these four things, probably subconsciously at the time.
Yeah. Community, discipline, physical activity, psychology. It's all right there.
It's all there. And I got hooked. Yeah. And in the space of 5 years, I ran 17 marathons and 18 ultra marathons in 5 years because I just become hooked on that. But then I was like, right, do you know what? That's a great awareness point for me. And that filled that vehicle, because when I was doing those things, of course I loved football, but I didn't have that same yearning or despair within me. Interesting. Okay, along the time, I'm obviously working on Matt Young. Matt Young's working on the human being side of things, and obviously with what I do now with helping people, I started to grow that, and I saw that this gives me, if anything, a deeper sense of meaning, a purpose, never allowing someone to, feel the things that I felt, and helping anyone I can, a deep sense of connection through avenues like this, or working with people who have been on that journey, a passion and drive within me that ignites such a focus within me that then all of a sudden I'm like, I used to think football for me was a solitary purpose in my life that nothing could replace.
Yes.
I've come to realize that football was a vehicle that I exercised to meet the deeper parts within me. Mm-hmm. And so that's now allowed me at this stage of my life, in a quite a comprehensive way, I know I'm answering this, to look at the different areas of life and go, right, where can I meet these needs here?
Yeah.
Physical fitness, connection, deep meaning, purpose in my life, to exercise that. So I've done those marathons, and now I'm currently training to swim the English Channel from England to France. I'm currently training that.
No days off. There's no days off for any iteration of Matt Young.
No, I mean, there's the odd one off. I like my golf every now and again and things like that. But
so good.
Ultimately, I like to look at life now as saying there's so many different purposes out there for me. My role is to look at life and find what works for me.
Yes.
Find what works for me, and that's really allowed me to take control of my life, take control of where I am emotionally, and begin to be so absorbed into the football for a stage, the ultramarathon runs. But now I look back on the ultramarathon runs, and I think, couldn't do that again.
Yeah.
Do that. Because now it doesn't have the same meaning or purpose in my life. Yes. But I look back on them now with such fondness, and I'm currently doing my business and currently doing what I'm doing with the swimming, where I'm like, I'm meeting my needs here, and I feel so fulfilled, so happy, as well as in my personal life, that they're all just wonderful experiences. I never feel attached to these things where they define me. And I think that's the parallel line of where I used to be to where I am now.
Yeah. Which just represents enormous amount of work, right? Psychological work, that those insights and that awareness, that doesn't just we don't stumble upon it. Like you were a seeker. You went out for information. You went out for context, for understanding. And again, being able to identify those 4 key components that make you, outside of all of those roles, outside of all those responsibilities, abilities, and talents, these are the things that fire Matt Young up as a human. And I'm creating these opportunities and these seasons where I'm able to do that. And now your life is in alignment, and that feels pretty amazing. And I think that's so beautiful and such an amazing example, if anything, like a blueprint that you're offering the folks who are listening, that you don't have to be a professional football player, go through a crisis, all of a sudden become an ultramarathoner, and now be trying to swim the English Channel for you to be happy. It's like, you got to figure out the alignment of what are those things that intuitively that you know about you that make you feel the most connected to your authentic self, and then be able to do that externally. Then you can share that. Then we're able to participate that. So I think it's just such an amazing blueprint of somebody who's actually done the work. And I'm just going to hold space for just a heartbeat to go back to the psychology of the ultramarathon, because that is not for the faint of heart. Like the psychology that's required to put your body through that is remarkable. And I am so curious. As somebody, I personally have an endurance event coming up in a wee while, and I am so curious, and this is totally selfish. Robyne just wants to know, what was your, or perhaps your go-to strategy for the dark moments in that extended period of the ultramarathon? Not really like what, trust your training. I get that. That works at the beginning. But when you're like in it and it gets hard and it's dark, like what's Matt Young's go-to suggestion or recommendation in that point?
There's 2 for me. 2 that were my fallbacks always.
I have my pen. I am ready.
Good on you. 2 were my fallbacks always with this. Number 1 was I always made the event, for example. So my longest one was 177 kilometers.
Sweet.
It took me 42 hours of non-stop running. It was around, it was quite intense, to say the least, around the Mont Blanc mountain range in Europe. My whole fallback on that, firstly, was, and in a backwards way, this isn't about me. This is not about me. If it's about me, I wouldn't have started this race. If it's about me, Matt Young can't get his head around the fact he's going, I'm going to be running for the next 42 hours. That sounds fun, doesn't it? No, it does not, actually.
No, that's...
it's not about me. It's about and this is where how I quote unquote sold it to myself, and I still do with these things, is that it's about the ripple effect, the impact that I can then take with this, with the experience of what I'm going to go through, and how that's going to allow me to connect deeper with myself, but then that's going to allow me to connect deeper in a deeper way with my wife and with my clients and with my family and with my friends, and what they're going to see and the inspiration it's going to give, and the ripple effect in that sense. And so I used to do the same at the start of every single race of what I would do. Even before my training camp begun, I used to tell a wider audience, not for a pat on the back, not for some acknowledgement, not some egotistical, oh, good on you, Matt, but from a sense of, this is what I'm doing. I used to tell as many people as I could that this is what I'm doing. Because when I'm in it, and I'm, it sounds crazy, but 30 hours into a run, even 10 hours into a run. That's what I mean. Even 10 hours into a run. And I think you're 10 hours in, your body is in absolute pieces, and you've got, you don't know at that stage, but I've got roughly 30 hours to go. I'm going to need something bigger than me, than I'm going to have to fall back on. And so for me, that was always the wider, deeper meaning of what this was going to do as a result of achieving this. That was always number one. And the second thing for me was the element of chunking. My brain, people were much smarter and, much wiser than me. My brain cannot fathom running 170 kilometers.
You're not supposed to.
I cannot fathom that. I cannot fathom that. It's even like when I'm swimming the channel. I'm like this summer. I'm not, quote unquote, a swimmer. I wasn't a runner. Like I can't. Like, the channel is about 40 kilometers non-stop swimming. In my brain, I'm like, what the hell? So I had done this process called chunking. And I would run 8, 9, 10 mini races within a race. And for me, that was just, each time you've got this 8-kilometer run that you are doing, that you don't think any further than that. You don't think any more than that. You finish your 8 kilometers, you reset, you have a drink, you have a gel, you see a loved one, and you go, right. And it was the most disciplined approach that I had with myself. The moment my mind started to go, like I said, I'm at 10 hours, you've got 30 hours left, I would stat myself out of that place and go, no, you haven't got 30 hours left. You've got 45 minutes until that next checkpoint. Then you reset again.
I love
and a combination of those two things, amongst a few other things, were always my fallbacks. And they were always the things that I believe contributed to the quote unquote success that I had in that.
Well, Matt, I feel like you just gave me a coaching session. So I feel that was very selfish, but please know I appreciate it.
What's the event that you have?
Yeah, so I'm doing the 29029 in Whistler this August, which is the equivalent to Everest Summit, but you're doing it by climbing Blackcomb Mountain 8 times in 36 hours. So you have 36 hours to do 8 summits. And I'm so excited about it. And it was interesting. I was chatting with he's a Navy SEAL, Commander Mark Devine, like literally like the OG Navy SEAL. I was in Coronado and I was talking to him, and we were chatting about endurance events because he does a lot of endurance events, obviously. And I was like, so Mark, what's your strategy? And he looked at me in his like super amazing Commander Mark Devine way. And he's just like, just focus. And I was like literally looking at him, and I think my bottom lip started to quiver, Matt, because as somebody with ADHD, like telling me to focus is like, please don't say that. Like it is literally like, I don't want to say like the worst advice. It would be the scariest advice that if I had to rely just on focus, that was going to, I would be coming up short, I think, in that case. And, the way I look at it, in that moment afterwards, when he saw that reaction, I think he read it on my face that wasn't what I was looking for. And he's like, well, just, remind yourself of the why. And I was like, Mark, I'm going to need a bag of whys. Like, I mean, like every kilometer will have to have its own little why. And I'm literally just going to start picking out whys per kilometer. And in the way what you just described with chunking, that's very much like how my brain would organize it, where it's just, those 36 hours. The other thing that I think helps, and a strategy that I use, and this has come up in many different places and spaces, both personally and professionally for me, is I expect it to be hard. Like, I trust my training. I trust my training camp. I trust my people, all of the things that, and I also fully embrace that it's going to be hard. I don't expect, any easy days, right? I expect that whole 36 hours to be hard. And I also appreciate that on the other side of it, there will be that part of me, if there were ever moments. And I even remember this when I was doing marathons, and recognized that there was a part of my race where I would tend to lose pace. And I remember being in that part of the race the next time, being like, this is the part where I know I have more to give, but I start to pull back a wee bit. And you don't want to be on the other side of this doing the same mistake again. It doesn't feel good. You know your pattern. Expect this to be hard. You're going to be good. So those are some of my kind of go-tos, but I haven't climbed a mountain at nighttime. So that's going to be new fear unlocked. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Good on you. And is it a solo venture, or is there a group of you? Or
great question. So there's a group in total, but the way of the mountain is you get spread out pretty quick.
Naturally, yes. It's the same with the runs type of fight. Well, no doubt you've absolutely smashed out. I look forward to tracking.
I'll give you an update, Matt. We will circle back. I will give you an update. Okay. So for people who might be listening to this, being like, you know what, I don't feel any calling to put myself out there in any type of hard physical piece like you're describing. Let's say, for example, somebody lost their job and they had this identity that they were this role. This was, it was their kind of what they do, how they make a livelihood. And now all of a sudden they're in a position where they're starting over. It's not by choice. And where do you encourage people to start thinking about, or where do they begin when they're in that kind of aftermath of a change that they didn't ask for, they didn't sign up for, kind of happened to them, but they want to be able to find a way out of that experience? Matt, where would you encourage them to start?
The first place to start, and it's a wonderful question, the first place to start, I think, is the question that people ask themselves when this thing happens. Because whenever we face a quote unquote crisis, if that's what it can be called, end of a relationship, a new job, the question that most people ask themselves is, what should I do now?
Yeah.
Now, when we ask ourselves, what should I do now? You are not going to tap into the same type of resourceful information that you have within you, or look for avenues that actually excite you, as opposed to the question of, if you asked yourself, now what do I want?
Oh, I love
because
that reframe.
When people say to themselves, what should I do now? Your brain is, as you would know, is naturally wired for the path of least resistance. So it's going to say, oh, you know what, take that job there, take that part-time thing, take this, just do this, get some income in, you've got ready to do, and completely resonate with. Yeah. And we end up buying into a life again that isn't, fulfilling, purposeful, passionate necessarily, but we end up just a rung down the ladder. And then that one goes wrong and we ask ourselves, what should I do now? Another rung down the ladder. And we keep dropping, quote unquote, down these rungs of ladders until, there's a shift, or there's a change, or life circumstances change. So my first place of where people should start, in my opinion, or I would encourage them to start, is by asking themselves, what do I want now? Well, now, what do I want? And what I mean by what do I want is, like I explained with the marathons and led to the channel and my business and such, that come from a place of, what should I do now? And I was laboring on building sites, like doing bits of, physical coaching for people. And I was just doing it just to try and get by, which we all need to do.
For sure.
But when the pivot happens, you start to look internally. What do I want? What do I want that gives me meaning, passion, physical drive, or, psychological depth to it? It gives me, a form of connection. Because when I look at that, I start to look at life's avenues, life's vehicles in a completely different way. You know what? That labouring on a building site, no meaning, no purpose, no connection, no psychological or physical impact on me. Yeah, it's not quite working for me. No wonder I'm unfulfilled. No wonder I'm unhappy. No wonder I'm miserable around friends. Yeah, I know I need income. So whilst I'm doing that for the moment, let me try and exercise some areas over here.
Yes.
And that would be my encouragement, for people to go internal before they start seeking externally.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes say to people in that rock bottom can be a beautiful place. Because when you're at rock bottom, the only place you can look is up.
Yeah.
But that's only if we allow ourselves to use that place as a trampoline or as a rebounder, as you guys would call it.
Yeah.
Not just a place of quicksand where we sink into it. So that would be my encouragement.
Yeah, I really love that idea about what do I want? And you can even feel that like energetically in your body. Like when you said that question, like that reframe landed for me, because it's not a reactive piece where, yes, I get that panic. Like, how am I going to make a livelihood? How am I going to pay my bills? How will I support my family? Like that, those feelings are valid and they're real. But that is that's a place of distress. And one of the things that I often say is like, stressed work is not our best work. We're not coming up with big, bold, bright ideas. Like stressed behavior does not bring out our best. But as soon as you shifted that to like, okay, you know what, this happened to me. What do I want? Like, this is almost as if this is that big opportunity where I get to imagine what do I want. And, you know, one of the exercises I've used in coaching to support people is like, okay, so this was the path you were on, right? So you're in this job. This was your responsibilities. This was the trajectory. Now, what could an alternate path could look like? Right. So maybe you do actually leave the job if you're in that position of not being fulfilled, or you think, wow, I know my retirement date 20 years from now, and I'm just going to be a rinse and repeat type life on that first path. What could be an alternative? Okay, so let's say you do leave the job, you do start your own business, you do bet on yourself, you do take that risk. And what could that look like? And then the third prompt is, what's like the wild, crazy, like the craziest path you could possibly imagine for yourself? Like literally bar down, like no holds back. Like what could you, like every lesson or everything you've ever learned or what anyone's ever told you, all of that goes by the wayside. There's no risk. Like what is that path? And I find it so remarkable because even when people are doing that exercise and they're literally writing it down, when they get to that place of the alternative, it's almost as if they have like a curiosity that spikes, right? Like it's all of a sudden like, that's interesting. When they get to that like ridiculous path, they get so fired up. Like you literally see them energetically, just like they start writing faster, they lean into the work. And it's like, not to say that we, you know, throw out all responsibility and life goes to hell in a handbasket, but what we do is take note of what were those parts or pieces of that ridiculous path that was actually getting you that excited to fall in love with your life again.
Yeah, absolutely. And just listening as you was explaining that, I was listening and I was going internal because that was absolutely true. And it's that side of it where we almost, I call it the box. We almost step outside the limitation box of where we think and perceive and act and behave, to look beyond that. You know, we have a store here in the UK called Argos, and it's basically like where you'd go to get your toys of any gift of any age. And when I was a child, you know, my mum at Christmas, it would get to November, and she'd give me the Argos catalogue, and she'd give me a highlighter pen, and she'd be like, right, go through it, circle what you want to send to Father Christmas. And there was no limitations on these things. It was the question of, what should I do now? It was, what do I want? And believe you me, at that age, we're not shy. And I'm circling all of these things. And then there's no limit to, and it's that ridiculous, crazy, that side of it that we don't see a limit to. Whereas when we get older, we go through that Argos catalogue. That's a bit of a luxury. We won't get that now. Like, I don't think I can afford that. Or
it's not practical.
That's not practical. That's not really needed. That's more of a priority. And it's these types of things. And I understand, obviously, the logistics behind it, but there's these types of things that limit us to living in the box. And that's why when you was explaining that, I was going internal around that. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful point, especially that third one, because that's what allows us to be expanded out of it. Exactly. Exactly.
I love that. Okay. So in Canada, that was called it was Eaton's and it was the Sears catalog. So for our friends that are listening in Canada, that was the Sears catalog and it was called the Wish Book. And the Wish Book would be released at the holiday season. And I know so many people in like my age bracket would very much be like, it was this thing that would be delivered to your house. You would be so excited. You wanted to get it before your sibling, right? And you would get that before the sibling. And it was something that was so special. And the thinking was limitless, right?
Yes.
And what I hear you saying in your practice is, again, it's that limitlessness and giving ourselves permission to imagine, to dream, or as I like to say in my work, get our hopes up. Okay, Matt, I could talk to you for days, and I would feel terribly remiss, though, with Canada hosting the World Cup, and it's starting right now. I would just love to know, at this point in your career, can you or do you enjoy watching a match? At this point where you are in your life, can you tune in as a spectator and enjoy watching it, or is something that you will find something else to watch this summer?
No, absolutely. I'll be tuned in. I mean, at the time of this recording, you know, my wife is heavily pregnant, and
exciting.
And it is due during some point. Hopefully during the World Cup, so that does have our main priority of focus.
Obviously.
However, rest assured, no, I'll be tuning in. Added to the fact that a lot of players who I would have played with and or against, I'm seeing at this World Cup. So for me, I'll 100% be tuning in. I'm really, really excited for it. I think. Dare I say England might have a chance? We think that every year.
Every single
time England get their hopes up. So we'll see what happens in that. But no, I'll definitely be tuning in and watching 100%.
Oh, I'm actually so glad to hear that, because one of my hopes for former athletes is that they can get to a place where they can still love the sport. So I'm so glad. I love all of the memes that are coming out about England being in the US right now, and them not coping very well with the weather. And I love the one particular meme that said, we got the British 1776 with our heat, and they're doing it again, making reference to the War of Independence. Anyway, I love all of what sport brings to community and to the world. And the fact that North America is hosting the World Cup, it's such a big deal, and just the generations of people coming out to celebrate and to enjoy that. And you know what? England's looking very good. They are looking very good. They have a good pool, not quite as good as Canada's pool, but Canada, we haven't had a win yet in the World Cup, but maybe it's our year. Who knows?
Hopefully so. I'm looking forward to it. I think whatever happens, the way it's been expanded and there's more teams in it now, I think it's going to be a great spectacle either way. So 100%, I'm looking forward to watching every minute.
And thank you, Matt, for your time. I wish you and your growing family all of the success and the brightest blessings. I hope your swim is smooth waters, and I hope you have a fantastic summer. So thanks for tuning in today, and folks who are listening. And again, we'll make sure to put all the information of Matt in the show notes so you can check out the good work that he is doing and find out ways that you can interact with the offerings and the work that Matt is putting out there so generously into the world. So thank you, Matt, for this time and just for shining so bright on what's possible. I appreciate you.
No, thank you very much for having me on, Robyne. It's been a pleasure being here and having the conversation. And just to reciprocate, good luck with your climb and your hike. I'll be sure to tune in on that, and no doubt you'll absolutely smash it. But thank you again for being here, allowing me to be here.
Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.